Hey there, I'm back again, and naturally I have a 3x3 hipster door for you. So let's take a look at it opening. There it is, we can walk right on through. Um, this is the first hipster door now that we can walk through with a horse without getting impeded. Obviously it's glassy, wouldn't suffocate anyway, but you know, it's nice to have some headroom. Um, yeah. So let's take a look to see how this works. As you can see, the redstone's quite big. Like before, what I did here is I replaced most of the blocks with barrier blocks. Um, so we can see this in action. One thing to note before I go into a little more detail is that there are blocks here. These blocks are required to be solid. The other blocks are not necessary. So let's watch the opening animation. There it is. Now we'll watch the closing animation. There it is. So, there's a couple techniques I used here that are new to me. One of them is using the observer in tight spaces. Now I used the observer in the other one, but here I used it in a couple of ways. So the first one is we have these observers observing this redstone wire. So when this pulses, it activates these pistons. So that's pretty easy. In fact, it's also not really necessary because we can just run it in back here, but why not? But here is where it's more necessary. So if we were to run a redstone wire underneath here, that wouldn't really work because there's these repeaters with redstone right below it, so we can't actually put blocks here to put redstone wire on. So instead, there's actually a sticky piston with slime blocks and blocks on it, and when this pulses, it moves all these blocks once per pulse, and that triggers all the observers at the same time. So these observers trigger these pistons, and then these observers, one tick later, are observed by these observers, which power pistons here. So there's actually only one input, which is this sticky piston, for both this set of pistons and for any pistons that happen to be here. But just because of the strategies that I used, only one input was actually necessary. A lot of the things that would have gone wrong are actually stopped by these obsidian blocks right here, so these pistons just can't push. The other solution was to move these pistons back here with these sticky pistons. That's why they're sticky pistons, so that will keep them from being powered, obviously, because they're no longer in that zone. And here we have, I think, the most interesting thing, which is logs and leaves. So if we get some of this stuff, we have leaves here in a line, and then we observe these leaves, and then we place a log here. You'll see that the observers actually get triggered. Now, what happens is this block pushes out a log, and then this triggers these leaves, and then in turn this triggers these observers, and because we have those blocks there, we can then trigger pistons that are sitting right there. So that's a very useful thing. Normally you'd use something like torches, or you'd push the observer in, yeah, so that's quite useful. And I was thinking like how to power these observers, or how to update these observers. Slime blocks don't work because it's just too tight here. There's these pistons that is just too crazy. And then redstone wire, again, the redstone wire can't fit because we have this redstone right underneath it. So leaves actually are a pretty cool option. However, this is actually dual purpose. It both powers pistons at this level, and it powers pistons at this level. Because if you look around here, there's actually no obvious way of how we power these pistons, and these are necessary. Like, for example, to pull down these blocks, the very first step in the closing or the opening, we need to power these. And what actually happens is we push this log out, and then this powers these blocks, but it powers them this one first, then that one, then that one, um, and then these are actually bud powering these pistons. However, these pistons aren't getting updated yet. So then this piston at a very precise time is actually being extended, which updates this piston and then updates all the rest. And the timing for this piston is precise to within one game tick. So if it was one game tick later or before, then it wouldn't work. And it's one game tick, not one redstone tick. So a redstone tick is 2 game ticks. So it's literally it's more precise than you can do normally with redstone. But that made it work. As a part of the thing to stop this piston, well, for various reasons, I actually used a locked repeater here. That was very, very pleasing. Maybe we can watch it lock just to finally see it actually being used. So what it does, if you look carefully, see there's 2 pulses there. This suppresses the second one of the pulses. So the first pulse, only the first pulse actually matters. And the reason why that is beyond the scope of this. But there's a video by El Mango about this concept, which is where I got this from. And he explains why sometimes there's 2 pulses. So yeah, that's to combat that. That's basically it. This isn't that interesting. It's just really messy and complicated. But yeah, I was quite excited to be able to do this all by myself. The only real thing that I used external resources for is this, is watching El Mango's video about this leaf thing. I designed the rest. And it was a really good challenge. It took me probably about 12 hours in total to do it. And there's actually several failed ones. So there's the first failed one, I think. Actually, there's a failed one over there, and then a failed one over there, and a failed one here, and a failed one there, and then finally a success. So, yeah. That's this project. Let's just end it off, I guess, with the slow-mo, like last video. Bye-bye.